This is an extra video here just to give everybody a rundown of the Bhaern Loadout Editor. You'll find Bhaern Loadout Editor. It is a more in-depth inventory system that is, while in the beginning quite a bit more difficult to understand, offers a lot more customization. So I'll show you quickly how I set up a build. You're going to open up, you're going to see your tab here. I would always start in the clothing crate here and not the weapon, and I would literally just start by stripping yourself down. And then picking yourself a kit. Now on Fargo servers, I really like a few weapons, and we'll go over them. The RPK-16 is really good, and the PKB is very good as well. I'll get rid of these for now. We'll start with our clothing. So, just go head to toe. Scratch that. Equip. You'll just start on the left here on the inventory screen. Click on the item that you're looking to equip and find an option for you. I typically like the Spartan helmets. Not that it really matters all that much. And some don't have them. So just go with the color you want. We'll go with green today. Now, it's very important in the Bhaern Loadout Editor here to actually edit a few individual pieces of equipment, and equipment of note would definitely be your helmet. So by hovering over that and hitting X, and if you are in console, I'm not sure what the control scheme will be, but it should denote that edit button on the lower right of the screen. So here, I hit X over the helmet. It brings up this menu here, and it allows you to customize each individual piece of equipment individually. So if you are someone who lives on 511 Tactical and has to go serious operator, you can Barbie yourself up to your heart's content. Otherwise, I just typically just try to find anything I can to cover my Caucasian skin tone for my night operations here. Masks are great. Balaclavas, especially if you're Russian, why not? Keep it simple. I don't worry about Velcro. The other really important thing on here is going to be your night vision. On OPR Fargo servers, I absolutely recommend the ANPVS 31s. These are a black and white grayscale night vision that really is very easy to use for newer players because, well, it's just black and white as opposed to changing colors. It makes it a little bit easier, in my opinion. Headsets, rails, again, this is all just Barbie stuff. If you want to go crazy and get patches and Velcro and whatever you want to do, countries, pot leaves, the usual deal. But that's pretty much all I do to my helmet. Check your jackets. I usually like the G3 battle shirts, just because of the color scheme. Really, that's it. You can pick whatever you like, whatever fits your preference in your environment. Just note that some of them actually do have rolled up sleeves, and it leaves your forearms out and shining. So I definitely would not use one that uses roll-ups. There's no really needed customization for the shirts, so then we're going to pick our armored vest. Armored vest is up to you. Again, color, style, how much protection you want. I run typically light. I would recommend running light for your starter kits until you know what you're doing. So you can just go ahead and look for something that fits your color scheme. There's going to be black, I believe. Yeah, like the Punisher vest is kind of like a black-green that works well. There's a Ranger vest, yeah, Ranger green down on the bottom, so you can, whatever floats your boat. I don't do a lot of customization on this, but you can actually do very cool ones on Fargo. In the butt pad attachment, some of the chests will give you the option to use Viper hoods. And Viper hoods are this version, the American version of a light ghillie. Again, same thing, chest Velcro, you can put patches on, you can do whatever you want to look cool. Remember, you have a plate up front, plate in the back. You do have the option for side plates. Some come with them, some do not. They each weigh, I believe, 2 kilograms. The side plates, I might just be 1, I'm not sure. I typically do not run side plates, and I just run front and back in order to save the weight. But if you're doing like a heavy build or some sort of assaulting build, you might want to think about doing that. And let's also see here. So we have the chest done, pants, wear something matching, and or I find a lot of the terrain wearing something a bit lighter, a bit more brown, a bit more multicam on your bottom can be beneficial because you're walking through a lot of fields and you're walking through a lot of brush that tends to be lighter than the ground and the trees around it. So if you want to split up your camo, you can do that. Otherwise, I typically like to look fairly uniform, so we'll just look for the same one. And they are listed AOR2, don't know what that stands for, but they are labeled so you can get the same camo pattern. Boots, I always just go with the jungle boots. The jungle boots fit everything. You can get whatever you want, honestly. Probably the least important piece of clothing. You'll see a lot of people running around in bare feet just for fun. Let's see, back. Back is where you're going to select a backpack. Now, if I'm doing my standard infantry kit, I typically do not run a backpack. I just use the chest rig and that's usually enough to carry a full suite of medical and your all ammo needed for your standard rifleman. Couple things that you can do is they are radio backpacks, which bit of an advanced mechanic. Those will allow your squad mates to spawn on you. That's something that you can look into. And also jammer backpack on Op Fargo if drones are, getting you quite a bit. I haven't seen too many drones lately. They haven't been that big of a pain. Not worth the 200 supply cost for this backpack, not to mention the weight. I typically run backpack free. Now, your vest is pretty important. The vest is going to be how much you can carry as far as ammunition, grenades, supplies, everything on your chest. We went green, so I will typically go down for Ranger Green. You will also see, however, that there are little denotations for different types. You have an MG. This one's specifically for machine gunners. Typically, it will allow you to actually carry the large belts of ammunition on those chest pieces. And this one, UBGL. Those are more storage for grenade launchers or grenade munitions. PKM, they carry 2 PKM magazines, which your normal check rig, or belts, your normal chest rig would not do that. So I'm just going to go with the standard for the quick guide here. The pouch preset, Ranger Green. I like this one a little bit better, so we'll stay with that one. Pretty light setup. Handwear, always cover all your skin, whatever's the closest to your camo, whatever looks good. Not super important as long as you're not just, shining like the light from the sun here. Head, frogmen stuff is pretty cool. It doesn't let you go over a lot of helmets. It actually does. Frogmen is pretty cool. I think it looks badass. I don't know. The frogmen mesh looks sick. Doesn't really do anything. Extra weight. I prefer the ghillie if I had to pick one of the two, but it looks cool. I don't have eyes, ears, none of this. I don't do any of this stuff. If you want to play with that, feel free. Now, before we leave the clothing section here, we want to check a few things. Now, we've gotten our basic setup here. Clothing setup, but we don't have our basic gear setup, and gear is going to be this next icon up here, the gun. Things you want to think about when setting up in an Op Fargo server is double check to make sure that you have the correct binocular slot. The binoculars are very different. M22 binoculars are just standard binoculars. The vectors here are range finding binoculars. If you're playing modern combat, I would definitely recommend doing the range finding binoculars. Also check your wristwatch. Make sure, if offered, that you have the Garmin Tactics Bravo. This item has built-in time, elevation. It has a built-in compass. It can do a bunch of things for you. In fact, and if you're playing on a server where, especially when you're new and you're learning how to navigate roads and the map and everything, if you press O as you're driving a truck or anything, you actually hold your watch up and you can actively monitor the direction of your travel while you're driving with the watch, which is a really nice feature. And now, since we are in the clothing section, they will not have any armaments over here, so we're not going to worry about our primary, secondary, or grenades or anything like that. But now we're going to put some equipment on our character. And in Bacon Loadout here, the best way to do that is to come over to the third tab. And then we are going to go to whichever item you wish to put it in. Now, so far, I like to keep my vest open for my ammunition. I carry the ammunition vest. Pants and jacket, where I put my incidentals and the things you need. So we'll start with a jacket. Well, so what do we need now that we've stripped ourselves naked and we're not carrying anything else? You're going to move over to the equipment tab, and the very important things that you need on your body are going to be a map, and that's basically it. Now your character's going to already be carrying a compass. If you don't have a compass, make sure to grab a compass. It's arguable in most public servers that I find an actual use to communicate via the chat to the entire group. I talk locally a lot to my teammates, but I do not use my radio a lot over the entire platoon chat unless I'm doing things like doing supply runs or doing attack helicopter runs or things that I need that sort of communication. I don't typically need mass communication, and a lot of groups do not use mass communication. Your radio chat is just going to be a bunch of people like flexing on their kills or screaming racial slurs, whichever comes first. So I typically do not carry a radio on me to save myself that weight and the headache. Now, I will show you what it's a way to get around that if you wish to carry the radio and get the experience similar to Call of Duty lobbies a la 2004.
All stations, this is Alpha Main. We are under attack at point
So that is all we're going to need for our equipment here. What I would do at this stage is work your way over to save icon. This will save your loadout. If you do not have anything saved, you'll see all these are empty. All you do is highlight a slot with your cursor, hit X, and it will now save that. Now, since we have half our loadout set up, we have the clothing and our equipment set up. Just save that there, just so you don't, if you happen to disconnect. Now, here is the night vision I was talking about. Hitting N as in Nancy on your keyboard will bring out your night vision. And as you can see, it's actually pretty decent, even though it's a downpouring rain in the middle of the night. You can still see fairly clearly. Alright, so for the second step of Bacon then is we're going to go on over to the ammo crate and the armament, denoted there by the bullets, of course. Back open your Bacon. That's going to bring us right back into the clothing. Oh, we've already taken care of our clothing. We don't need anything here. We're going to run on over to our gear slot. We're going to choose our primary. Now, this is where your options are going to open up incredibly large. And this is where a lot of people are going to get confused, especially if they don't know a lot about firearms. These are real firearms, named, licensed. They work. Most modders try to simulate them to be fairly similar. You have everything from your favorite scars. You have the Mark 14 EBR, which is my personal favorite weapon on the NATO side. Anything like heavy snipers that are just massive. They're ranked locked behind some rank, so I can't pick them quite yet. Typically, what you're going to start out with the American side, I would recommend, is just choose something in 5.56, which is the standard round for NATO. Any of the M4 variants, M16s, anything that looks like your standard American assault rifle is going to be running on the 5.56 round. The 5.56 round is easy to control. It's pretty effective. It's a good round to start with. I don't ever use it myself, but I think it's a good round to learn. Personally, my favorite gun well, at least for newer people to start, is just go ahead and get yourself a Scar H. A Scar H is in 7.62, and it slaps. And not only that, it has a auto. Now, if you didn't know the difference between Scar H and Scar L, Scar H is Scar Heavy, Scar L, Scar Light. Scar Lights use 5.56, Scar Heavy use 7.62. I like 7.62. This is a battle rifle. It hits harder. It's got harder recoil, but man, is it more satisfying. And it drops people really fast. The only downside is, of course, the increased recoil, increased weight, and reduced ammo capacity. Your standard 5.56 is 30 rounds. Your standard 7.62 has 20 here with the Scar. Now, one of the fun things, especially if you're a little bit of a gun nut like I am in real life, you now get to play with your gun too, just like we played with the helmet. And it gives you this really cool 3D model here. On the left-hand side, you choose your ammunition. Now, this is one place where I feel that Bacon really drops the ball. And even though I know a lot about firearms, I don't necessarily know the denotation for the specific ammo type here. That is the armor-piercing ammunition. So if you look, they have M80A1, M81, M62, M993. Honestly, even right now, telling you, I don't know which one of those are armor-piercing, and you always want to run, always run armor-piercing. I'm going to think, I think M80A1 is the standard ball, if I'm not mistaken, so maybe M993? No, M62 is, whatever. But anyway, pick your ammo, you can check it. If it's not, just go back, change it. Foregrips, they actually do reduce your recoil, and in fact, it's proven that the more weight on the front of your gun will actually reduce your recoil in general. That includes flashlight suppressors and everything like that, and that's pretty cool because it is a very realistic kind of addition. And you can change it. I don't think there really is much of a difference between efficacy of all of these. They all kind of do the same thing, but if you want to get yourself some Daniel defense, you can go ahead and do that. No, Daniel defense forward grip here is probably the only thing I'd be able to afford from that company. But, you know, you get to do it. And that's just some Barbie stuff for your gun there. Now, your biggest, change other than the ammo is going to be your optic. Finding an optic in this game is pretty cool. There are tons in all of these, at least as far as I'm aware. All of them are true licensed optics. So if you have a nice optic at home that you like to use, you might very well find it in this game. This has, your ACOGs. This has aim points, EOTech Voodoo. It has loopholes. It's got, it's just basically everything. This was even gotten some night sights, Sig Sauer sights, Schmidt and Bender, this stuff for like some more like long range stuff. What I would recommend is find whatever range your weapon is going to be. 7.62 is typically about it. You can reach out to like 600-700 meters with that, and have a sight that is at least, I guess, you divide that number by 100 and they have at least that magnification. So if your gun can reach out to 600 meters, make sure that your sight system has roughly at least a 6 times magnification. I find that to be a rough general estimate for closer range, like, probably a kilometer and in. Kind of figuring out what kind of scope you want to use. And then from there, it's just completely personal preference. Whichever sight works best for you, whichever sight picture you like. I will typically always pick, especially in battle rifles, a sight that has my long-range scope on the bottom and a little Arma on top, so I can quickly go between longer range and up in my face. Now, if you're going to stick with me and just follow this build here, the Scar is great. It does reach out to 600-700 meters if you have to. Typically 4 to 6 is really fun and a really good sweet spot for it, because you're going to outrange a lot of smaller rounds and be able to hit pretty hard. I like using it's the Night Force ATA CR 1 through 8, so that gives you an 8 times magnification 1 to 8, that's what that denotes there. Don't worry about the second number. This aperture is opening. It's how much light goes in the scope. It doesn't really matter all that much in the game as much as it does in actual real life. It'll give you a wider opening, wider picture. And then once you have those set up, then you can select your muzzle device. And always, 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 if you have the opportunity in this game, use a suppressor. It's not like other games where suppressors will sit there and damage your ability to do things. It doesn't make the gun run any less or any better. In this game, it just makes it quieter, which is better. I don't find any difference between a lot of these suppressors. I just kind of pick the one that I like the best. I think I usually go with the DD... The DD Wave, the Daniel Defense one, just because of the Daniel Defense name, honestly. But whatever one you think looks coolest, fits your vibe. Like, that was kind of cool. It's even got like almost like a... And again, these are all, like, even the silencers themselves are all real items. Silencer Co. is a real company. So you can pick anything you want here. I would just recommend picking a suppressor on all of your weapons that allow it to be used. So now we have our primary weapon set up, ready to go. And now OpFargo allows you to carry 2 primaries. I typically do not carry 2 primaries in the form of 2 separate weapons. You can. I just really prefer battle rifles, and battle rifles are a very good jack-of-all-trades weapon, so I don't really need... It's kind of a wasted weight to carry a supplementary weapon that isn't an explosive in most cases, because this gun can just kind of handle whatever you throw at it. So for my secondary, I'll probably just pick an M72A3 Law. It is a simple, like, 3.5, 4 kilogram, one-use rocket tube that, you know, if a Jeep drives by, or a LAV, BTR, whatever you need to do to take out, typically a rocket will take it out. The only thing a single rocket doesn't really take out that well is tanks. Your heavy battle tanks do not fall to a single rocket. And the nice thing with that, you don't need to worry about anything. You just put it on your back. It's ready to go, ready to fire here. Secondaries, I do not carry secondaries unless I am carrying a bolt-action sniper rifle, which is very rare. There is no use for a pistol outside of... oops, I ran out of ammo, or I need to shoot somebody closer than 100 meters away, and all I have is a ×5 scope. There are a ton of pistols to choose from. Of course, your Glock 17s, your general carry. Beretta M9, military classic. New Sig Sauer M18s. Fortunately, they do not go off accidentally in the game, so you will not accidentally kill yourself or friends with the Sig Sauer pistols. I know they had to, reduce the realism on that a little bit for gameplay, but that's the kind of gameplay that I'm looking for. All right. Here we have grenades. There are usually a couple special ones in some servers. They literally modded, like Goofy Ones' Pumpkin Bomb just makes like a Halloween-themed laugh when you throw it. It's really there for games. When you're playing NATO, NATO have the M67 frag grenade. These are great. They're way better than the Russian grenades, just for one thing, is when you pull the pin and you throw them, they're silent. The Russian grenades make a very loud snap, giving your position away every time you throw a grenade. So on America, I typically will carry extra grenades, and I'll carry, 4 or 5 grenades on me at any time, especially if I'm going to be going into, any sort of CQC situation where I'm going to be clearing rooms. The more grenades you have, the better. They're silent. They work. Your secondary throwable here is where you're going to pick your smoke. I just typically will always pick a white smoke. You can use different colors. It really doesn't matter. Smoke, white, and yellow. They have different ones for different factions on some servers. But your standard white smoke, and I will typically carry 2 smoke grenades in a general infantry kit, 4 or 5 grenades if I'm NATO. Otherwise, just 2 on Russia. So now that we have our weapons chosen, and we have our throwables chosen, we're going to do what we did before, and we're going to move from gear, and we're going to go over to inventory. And in our inventory here, we're going to make sure we get our ammo sorted out. So we're going to go to our vest. You click on the vest, you click on the button to add, and this is where, you know, your eyes are going to cross, but don't worry. Scroll down until you find the magazines that are highlighted. And here we are, the Scar magazines. Now, I wish I could tell you right now off the top of my head. I'll have to, maybe I'll add it in, or we can look at it later, but, so I'm just going to choose M81, M993, and M62. So I chose 3 different types of ammo so I can figure out which one is the armor type. But all you do is you left click, it's going to add the magazine into your vest over here, and anything that's highlighted can be used by weapons that you're currently carrying. So if you notice, also, oh wait, no, we don't have an RPG, we have a lot, never mind. I was going to show you the RPG rounds, but we're not rushing. Alright, so you can hit escape. I'm just going to check to see, looking at my inventory here, what types of rounds these are. And this will give you a good idea to know. And we do have the round we're looking for. The 2 little bullets next to it, and you're going to see down below in the description is FMJ, Full Metal Jacket. That is the standard round for combat, of course, for most actual realistic soldiers, and what you're going to go shoot at your range. It is effective. It's just not as effective as these. The M993 armor-piercing rounds. While not standard, I would assume for your normal soldier, in this game, you might as well just carry the best. So we're going to be carrying the M993. To get rid of things out of your inventory, now we can just get rid of the other 2, and now we know we need the M993. So when we go back to Bacon Loadout, go back to our inventory screen. And since we already have the 993 right there, we don't even have to open the other menu. We can just keep clicking. Why does this pouch set only have 3 magazines? That does not seem correct. Well, we need a new pouch preset. Maybe something with a little extra oomph. Let's see if that'll let us do it here. Inventory. M993 black. There we go. If you're only going to be carrying 1 weapon, any main weapon, especially if it's like a 20-round magazine, I typically would recommend around 10 magazines, 8 to 10, depending on what you're carrying. If they're like 30 or extended, if they're 30 rounds, I'll carry like 8. If they're extended 45 rounds, I'll carry 6. Roughly, I always try to keep 200 to 400 rounds of ammunition, depending on what gun I'm using. If you're, carrying something like an LMG, I'll typically carry 500 rounds of ammunition. But for your standard rifle, especially battle rifle and 7.62, you don't typically need more than 200 rounds. I mean, that's enough to kill a whole lot of people. And it's a very accurate gun. So you don't waste a whole lot once you get practice with it. So we're going to leave that at 10 magazines. We are going to come over here at our throwables and explosives. And now we have already chosen the M67 grenade. We have that, and the white smoke. So I'm just going to add 4 more grenades, 2 more, well, 1 more smoke. We can fit other smoke in our pants here. So we have a total of 3 smokes, 4 or 5 grenades. Now we have our equipment, our weapons, our ammunition, everything settled, except probably the most important thing, which is going to be our medical. Now, on a lot of servers, you're able to just use the inventory menu and find your medical supplies through here. For some reason, on Fargo, You have to either go through the actual arsenal itself through a separate menu, or get it from a medical tent or an ambulance. Let me back out here. I don't see an ambulance parked around, so maybe this server's got it just on arsenal. So that you're going to come back over to clothing arsenal, and you're going to scroll down to open arsenal as opposed to bacon loadout editor, and your medical is going to be up top here. What I will typically do for medical, and we're going to get rid of this extra smoke here. So we've got 1 smoke, 4 frags, 10. You want 5 bandages, 2 morphines, 1 blood bag. This is a pretty standard setup. Rarely do I ever need anything more than this, and you know, maybe carry 1 tourniquet. Tourniquets are just basically shitty bandages in this game. Tourniquets do not they are quicker to apply than bandages, but they do not permanently reduce the blood loss, and they do not permanently treat the blood loss. They just reduce it, and it also really cripples you if that thing's on your leg. The only reason you use tourniquets is say you have 4 or 5 limbs bleeding. You slap those on a limb or 2 just so you can start bandaging the important things. So say like your legs are bleeding, you're going to want to take care of your head, chest, and abdomen first. They bleed much faster, not just like in real life, than your limbs do. So say you have your arm injured, your leg injured, and your other leg injured, and you also have a chest wound. What I would do is slap a tourniquet on one of the extremities and work your chest first. So now you've basically taken care of 2 in the time it takes you to do 1. And once you are done, you still then will have to bandage the tourniquet limb and remove the tourniquet. They're a bit more, again, I can count on one hand how many times I use tourniquets. It's really only if I catch flack from like a rocket explosion and my entire body's bleeding and I just need to like stem the flow. Otherwise, bandages are just better because they actually treat it. Let's see. I hope you finished and done the medical tutorial at least, so you know when you're injured, the first thing you do is you stop the bleeding with the bandage, and any injury will be left with a little broken bone icon, and that gets treated by the morphine. In the top up here, you're going to see a blood drip that will gradually decrease as you lose blood. If it gets to the bottom, you pass out and die. That can be replenished with the saline solution. Alright, so now we have our guns set up, our deployables, throwables, ammo, medical, everything is taken care of. Now what we can do, I think it might be morning, cool, is we make sure we save. And now we are actually ready to go and have a little fun. A couple things I would recommend is just play with it. Now that you know how to do a standard setup, play with the guns, find different ones, and remember to use that equipment inventory section with your pouches or your backpacks or whatever you have set up, so it'll point you directly to the ammunition that you need via highlight. There's just way too many options for ammo to not use that. So, especially if you don't know anything about firearms. So now, since this is saved in our bacon loadout, I can actually go back to a different build I had. I had a little, looks kind of like a CQB build. It's got a short-range 5.56 and a rocket. Well, I don't know why I went with a ghillie. Kind of an odd setup. And then we'll just go switch back by clicking back to the build we just set up. Now, important, especially on Fargo, once you have that all set up, make sure to save it within the arsenal. You have to save the arsenal if you want to be able to spawn with this loadout. And these servers only let you save one loadout, but you can switch it through the Bacon loadout editor. And if you see on the top right there, it says you've saved your current loadout. It can now be selected in respawn menu, and it gives you a supply cost costing 103. Well, that should be all you need to get set up with the Bacon loadout editor. Thanks if you made it all the way through the video. I love Arma Reforger, and I want Bhaern's Armory to become the place for new recruits to learn. So I'll be continuing this series with more in-depth tutorials, in-game systems, going over playstyles, maybe some favorite weapons. This is one of my first videos ever, so tell me how I did in the comments below. I'm sure I missed something, so please share your tips as well. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys on the battlefield.